IoT Coffee Talk. Remember, there's no parking on the dance floor.
That's right.
My God. Oh my God.
I know
Wow.
that's like crap, but you know what? Trust me.
Wow.
Sound better. I'm not here to impress you guys. I'm here to impress.
No parking, baby. No parking on the dance floor.
No parking on the dance floor.
I'm gonna have to give you a ticket or something.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember that song. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You remember that tune, Rob?
I did, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to give you a ticket.
Yes.
Were there freakazoid robots involved in that?
Yes, there were.
I'm gonna have to give you a ticket. Yeah,
Exactly.
freakazoids. Yeah.
Freakazoid robots. No,
Man, that's when it was real party music. I don't care what anyone
Yes.
said.
Debbie
Yeah.
Dan.
Absolutely. It was total party music back then. You're right.
Who's that one dude? He was really good. DeBarge or that dude?
Eldebar.
El DeBarge.
Remember
Yeah.
El DeBarge?
Yeah.
Did he
See,
have more than one hit?
I don't know.
They had a bunch of hits, especially during that time. I mean,
Yeah.
El DeBarge was just the lead singer, but his whole
Yeah.
family, the group DeBarge was off the charts.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then there was what's his name? Tony. Remember that group?
Yeah, because it never rains in Southern California.
Yeah. I mean, so many great groups, you know? So much great music back then. I don't know. I think they had to be more innovative, I think. These days, it's like...
Well, I mean, look how much of their music is sampled today.
Yeah.
And I mean, the capper is Roger Troutman and Zapp.
But you know, think about that. See, that kind of is the problem, right? You know, in that era, there was so much, like in the 70s, even though people trashed the 70s, they had great songwriters. 80s, great songwriters. 90s, great, grunge, right? So if it wasn't for grunge and these outliers really pushing the envelope of what music could be, it would have been kind of a cheesy era. But because of glam and all the stuff that I was into. But digital, in a way, made creativity watered down because, like you're saying, anybody can copy anything and anybody can sample anything. And what people thought is new is actually old. And so I don't know, man. Those great innovations in music and style, right, in genre, it doesn't happen that much. In fact, I think, I don't know, some of the stuff is just like goofy.
Leonard. Well, I mean, really, it's crazy. I mean, my girls, I've forced them to listen to the 70s and the 80s music because I was like, now you're going to have to judge everything else off that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you will listen to Parliament Funkadelic.
Are you kidding me? Let's start off with the fact that you will listen to Marvin Gaye. You will listen to Aretha. You will listen to the Supremes. You will listen to that stuff.
That's right.
And that's it. I mean, Commodore's Brick. I mean, Confunction, all of that. That's what you're gonna grade everyone else against that.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because they need to create that baseline of excellence, which that's it. So that they have something to judge the new stuff by. But at the same time,
how much more bounce to the ounce, computer love. Come on.
Any Gen Zers or millennials listening to this program will go, oh man, there's like 3 old guys on there saying today's music sucks and it was way better back in their day. Because that's how we're sounding here. But even though it's true.
I'm sorry. True. Facts are facts.
Yeah. I mean,
hashtag facts.
Yeah. I mean, when it's too easy to, copy, then there really isn't that much creativity. There's just copy and paste.
It's an evolution. I mean, there's talent in every time, and I don't want to totally bash them. Remember when we started getting into the '80s, for instance, and I'm not even talking about like the new wave electronica stuff versus whatever hair metal versus whatever, but also we started. Well, a lot of people don't think about this. Digital technology in audio equipment and music started to happen in the '80s. You had drum machines. That came out was a thing.
808, the 808.
Yeah. 808. You started having dedicated stuff where you could put together a backing track or something like that. A sound. Think about because there's innovation in that. Think about Rocket.
Yeah. What is he doing? Herbie Hancock, yeah.
Well, I mean,
that was a genius from an earlier time.
It was more than just music, though. That was a culture, right? Because that's literally when breakdancing and all of that was like, and I mean, I remember, I'm gonna date myself. I remember running down to Venice Beach, and right over there at the area that they call Muscle Beach, right over there.
I knew it.
All of the breakdancing, the street comedians, all of them, you could just go there. Free entertainment, man.
Yeah. And then you got breakdancing too, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
All of that you had a whole Golan and Globus had a whole they had a whole treasure trove of movies built off of that culture, the hip hop culture.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, did you ever see that dude on the roller skate? He has like sort of this turban. He has the turban on, and he has that guitar with the target on it. It's like the Target guitar. And did you ever see that guy live?
Yes.
It's actually really good. And he has an amazing voice. I was like, wow. And you see him in commercials, right? But they hardly ever show him playing anything, but he's kind of like a Venice Beach icon. And the dude is talented. And, he's rolling around singing, playing guitar fantastically. And then he's actually a pretty damn good roller skater. Not roller blades. I don't think he ever upgraded. Roller skate.
Yes, you're right. Go back in time.
But even then, like you had that one area over there at Venice. I mean, Venice was like, that was the place to be.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, you had the borders, so you had a whole skateboard community that was there. You just had everything. It didn't matter what you were into, and it was safe.
Yeah. It was safe. Yeah. And you also had Olivia Newton-John and Xanadu back then riding on her roller skates.
Oh my god!
Roller
too
skates
funny.
used to be a thing, like legit, real roller skates.
Oh yeah, big time. Roller rinks. Yeah,
all that stuff. And,
Hollywood
neon spandex.
Yes, exactly. And you always had your Walkman on with your headphones. Those are the days.
Yeah, so the audience is probably going, "What the hell are these guys talking about?" By the way, look good, feel good, donate. Elevate our kids.
It wasn't that it's an evolution. The gadgets and the things we were into back then led us to where we are today. If we weren't into high-end audio equipment, jam boxes, Walkmans, amplifiers, speakers. Before we had computers and before we had a lot of the things we do now, we were into this other thing. And I think there's a gene or something, and we were just totally fascinated. And then more new gadgety kind of things came along, and we just kind of went along for the ride. Something like that. At least that's how.
But I mean, that's a good point, because I mean we make jokes about, Gen Zers and those that might be listening now saying, "Oh my God, you guys are, who'd you go to school with, Moses?" I mean,
they turned off already.
It's like, for real, if you are 40, you had the opportunity to see the transition from possibly from 8-track to cassette, from cassette to CD, from CD to MP3, from MP3 over to digital streaming, and all of this. So we're a tech community. All of these things are technology advancements.
Yeah.
And they result in what you have today.
And the industry transformations that they drove.
Yes.
The whole roadmap, you can look behind.
Leonard,
it's amazing.
Leonard, you go to the NAMM show every year, and you often have said that world has been a big driver of technology that a lot of people don't realize it.
Yeah. But to that end, vinyl is making a comeback.
Oh yeah. Vinyl is killer. Yeah, I mean, all that stuff that we talk about, industrial automation, control, feedback, haptic, RPA, blah blah blah, all that stuff. The music industry has been. I mean, that is the first consumer or public expression of these technologies. Think about that. It's crazy. But then everyone just thinks, these guys are just a bunch of hippies or whatever. They're not technical. Dude, I mean, I went to the Village Studios in Hollywood, the world famous.
Yep.
And you can witness there the history of technology that has defined and shaped what the music industry is today. And think about what even Apple, which had their event, of course, we probably have to talk about those guys. They led with music, iTunes, right? They didn't lead with video or VR or XR or any of this stuff. It all starts with music. And
the music matters.
Social, the way that you promote your music, all that stuff. I mean, the whole music industry is transformed, right? But even with all that transformation, there is one thing that still makes all the money. What is it? The live performance, live music, real stuff. Not fake.
Thanks, Sean Parker and Napster and the digital destruction of the music industry, where that's the only way those guys are making money now is by touring. They used to not have to tour. They could make money off of albums.
No.
But that whole space got blown to pieces.
Not really. SoundCloud is allowing them to make money.
Some, but no, Rob is right. But even back then, they had to go on tour to make the money back. The only reason why I know is my first consulting gig was in the music industry, helping them with their back office. So I was doing their projects. I did all the royalty stuff. So I had visibility to how the entire back office works, and that gives you a blueprint for how everything in the front office works and how the industry works, kind of, right? And yeah, dude, even back then, Rob, live music, that is how you made good. Because all these artists are in tremendous debt the day that they signed on the dotted line,
I hear all these artists that, they say that, Spotify has been a scam for them.
Yeah, they don't pay that much.
It doesn't pay jack.
The bigger thing has to be around ownership, right?
Yeah.
It has to be around ownership. I mean, look at Ray Charles, and he owned his, and it wasn't that broadly publicized about how he owned his masters. He owned the rights. I mean, Michael Jackson bought the Beatles. I mean,
he bought the Beatles, right? That was a big thing. I remember that was a big story. That's crazy stuff. But I'd hear Eddie Vedder and a lot of these guys from the 90s on say, we used to make all this money from recording and selling CDs at that time frame, at least. And then as soon as Napster hit, the MP3 revolution hit, digital music, all of a sudden people are like, oh, I'm just going to get it for free.
Yeah.
And I know Steve Jobs tried to wrestle things back again and do the 99 cents a song deal, when the iPod came out. But but and then you have different business models like Spotify.
Yeah.
Every trillion streams will give you a penny, or whatever. And so they have to, and if you're not a mega band, I mean, all the other ones, as you know, I mean, that's the only money they're making is touring, live shows.
But that's how you know
they don't want to do that.
Good.
Yeah. But then, that's when you had like YouTube, and you do have these platforms now that allow the little guy that may never have had a chance, sort of these folks that are off label, that to actually do it on their own, so in a lot of ways it democratized access, right? And markets for a lot of artists. And so like Dua Lipa, friggin' think about Gangnam Style, dude, like friggin' bye, bro.
I mean, the original K-pop.
There you go. Yeah,
also,
that dude.
But no, you're so right. People can, and so you're right. It's a double-edged sword. It leveled the playing field. A whole lot of unknowns can be discovered on YouTube and places like that never would have had a chance, because there's always been gatekeepers, right, in Hollywood or whatever.
Yeah.
Think about the story. What's his name? RN. I always mispronounce his name. The Filipino guy who was singing Journey songs.
Oh yeah.
And putting them on YouTube. And Neil Sean checks him out on YouTube and then flies to the Philippines and hires him to be their new lead singer because he sounds just like Steve Perry. Yeah, that's a huge success story for a guy who could have just been unknown for the rest of his life and would have been considered a karaoke singer for Journey songs.
Well, if you go that route, then throw Justin Bieber out there.
Yeah. You're right.
So, yeah,
absolutely.
So, but still, the labels haven't gone away, like a lot of people were thinking. They still have a lot of clout, and a lot of it has to do is they have the infrastructure to put people on the road to make the big money.
They own distribution, right?
Well, they own concert circuit globally. But there's on the global production.
There's still, I think this is one thing that I'll give the millennials and Gen X.
You're alienating some people, man. But we're gonna inspire some comments below.
but it's where does change take place, right? This is the whole thing. If we're gonna tie it back to things, we talk about digital transformation, and everything that we've been talking about has a digital element to it, right? Yeah. And when you look at that's just a vertical. The music industry is just a vertical, and it experienced digital transformation in a real way because the business models have changed. The tech has allowed them to say, we're going to find another avenue to the people. And whether that be, through things like Spotify, through things like SoundCloud, so that is creating a market in and of itself, as opposed to normal distribution, which was press and vinyl. So, I look at those things and I'm like, that digital transformation, people, process, and tech. It's tied together, and it doesn't matter. You don't need to be an expert in any one thing to influence or to innovate within the space.
Yeah, that's a good point. I always love the story too. You talk about labels, distribution. There's good stories. There's bad stories. You always hear about these bands that were so eager to get signed, and they signed a really crappy deal with the label. And then they felt like they were imprisoned by them. I knew that happened to NSYNC and a bunch of other well, it happened to Prince. Prince had to change his name to that Ankh thing. In order to keep, because George Michael had that happen to him. Sony owned his butt, and he had to just disappear for a while. So there's some times where, I don't know, it's a weird deal. These labels say, well, you wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for us. And even though we're taking all your money, but it's, then you have rebels who started their own labels, like Dr. Dre. You had people like Master P was selling records CDs out of the trunk of his car. And so those guys were rebels and going straight to the people and getting their stuff or their acts that they had signed locally. If you think about the East Coast, New York rap scene as that was growing, a lot of it was just direct power to the people kind of stuff, it's pretty interesting, I wouldn't want to be a part of a label where I have to worry if Suge Knight's going to beat the hell out of me with a lead pipe or something, so that's just me, but you never know.
Well, I mean, any label that's called Death Row. I mean, I got. I just, I just got to
stay away from that. Yeah.
I also, just while I'm thinking about those guys, I think that Super Bowl a few years ago, where it was Dr. Dre and everybody there, was probably
Eminem, 50 Cent, Mary J.
That was like the best halftime show I'd ever seen at the Super Bowl, because so many of these halftimes have just gone to shit, or they throw in a bunch of weird people together and mash them up, But man, they threaded the history. You had Tupac in there. I mean, it's like they told the story of LA music, and I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Frozen?
No, you're frozen. But I had no idea that Dr. Dre could play the piano.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta watch Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah, I didn't
love
know
that movie.
Yeah,
love that movie. It's a great American. Straight Outta Compton is a great American story. It just is, and the struggles and those guys. There's so much talent.
Yeah,
and what they had to push through.
Still one of the dopest CDs ever put out. The Chronic.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes, it is.
Can you imagine? Right. It's like, hey, what should we call this? The Chronic.
It is. I love
At that time.
Yeah.
Well, they were doing crazy stuff. I mean, back then, you had like 2 Live Crew, and
I agree.
It's like, but that's how they. I
just love hearing the.
Huh? You
police
love hearing the what?
Those different cities where they're touring, who are like, if you. Can you hear me?
You're cutting out. Hotel Wi-Fi.
My internet connection is unstable.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, we can hear you now. You're good.
My hotel Wi-Fi is cutting out. Okay. I just think about the police. Can you not hear me? The police.
No, we can.
Security,
yeah.
Different cities, and they're like, if you play that song, we're going to arrest you on stage. And those guys are like.
Sounds like Elvis Presley, James Brown, everybody, that's what happened to all of them.
That's the stuff that is like, really, that's when you are making a change. Freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, really think about it. Yeah. I mean, if you really think about it, during the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even today, the word love means something very different than people think. And sometimes that got you kicked off the stage, depending on how you used it in a sentence, right? That was like the belief back then.
Or sometimes you just got kicked off the stage because you were saying F the police.
Oh.
They were saying what a lot of us were thinking.
Huh? Yeah. That's why they sold. That's what they sold.
They had an experience. As young people, they had an experience in Los Angeles that other people didn't have in other parts of the country, where people were just getting beaten down, until the rest of the country saw the video of Rodney King, that you had a glimpse of what was going on and what these guys may have been going through.
This is, to go back and to categorically listen to some of those groups. I will say, again, I made my girls do this. You will listen to Public Enemy.
Oh yeah. Everybody should listen to Public Enemy.
Look, hey, I'm here to say you can't get more raw and more real about what was happening at that time than what Chuck D was saying. K Artist One was saying. I mean, this is, oh my God, don't get me started. That's just
and do the right thing.
It was real. And I know on the other side of the fence, people are like, that wasn't really happening. Yes, it was.
It was happening. And they weren't trying to stir the pot or cause problems. They were telling the story of their lives
and they were trying to bring awareness, shine the light on what was happening. And hey, let the chips fall where they may.
Right. Absolutely. So I hear that Apple had an event.
And Dr. Dre sold a multi-million-dollar business, or $1 business as a billion-dollar business to Apple. That was their first. That was probably their only non-tech acquisition. Think about it.
Oh, you mean where it wasn't organically grown? Where they just
it wasn't organically grown. They bought it to expand their market share to a.
Because what do we know?
That was the only thing that they've done. Huh?
What do we know about some things? Sometimes it's not the tech that drives sales. Sometimes it's a person. It's a feeling. It's a groove.
Yeah. So Dr. Dre, man.
So tell me about this iPhone. It sounds like if you get the regular iPhone 15, they basically just took all the features from the Pro last year and put them in the plain old iPhone this year. So that's your new stuff. And then with the Pro Max, it's titanium now. Is that the big feature? It's titanium. I think.
I think all that stuff is like just
It sounded like it was a whole lot of nothing happened, but you can get it. You can get it in pink. So I think that's the big takeaway from the event is you can get a pink iPhone.
I don't know. My daughter and I were talking about this last night, and she was like, "Do I have to get another phone?" And she was like, they changed the connectors, they changed this, and the only thing that I'm going to get out of it is a pink phone.
You know what? I know Bill's going to be very happy with me here. Oh,
yes. That's what I'm saying.
I came over to your side, Bill.
Join the club. Welcome to the family.
It's you tested this thing, Leonard. Man,
it's a great phone.
Megapixel camera is insane on this new Ultra 23, and the nighttime photos, the color, it's amazing. So much better than my iPhone 14 Pro Max.
Did y'all hear that? Did you hear that?
Way better. Way better.
I would say it's unless you're Rob Tiffany, it's really hard to tell the difference. But if you're a pro, okay, it has a lot more controls than what you have on the in iOS, right? So what the features that they enabled on the Samsung Ultra 23 or the S23 Ultra, I mean, it's just like you could do everything, right? And they have some great features. So yeah, great phone, and the software allows pros to have the level of access that and control that you really don't have on the iPhone. iPhone still tries to. It's more of a prosumer experience, and I think even though I think the folks at Apple will disagree, but. Quite honestly, in my own test, the Galaxy S23 had an edge, but it wasn't a huge edge. You know what I'm saying? These cameras and these systems are getting so good that the difference is kind of negligible. But that was my experience. But Rob, I know you love the telephoto. Right, your telephoto and all. So
because you're right, we get 10x optical.
Which is crazy.
I think they drove the use of the periscope type camera to be able to do greater optical zoom without having a big giant thing sticking off the back of your phone.
Yeah.
the video looks well. You were at the Samsung event in San Francisco. Remember they had a whole deal like Ridley Scott. They filmed a movie with it, and it looked incredible.
Yeah,
I was impressed.
It's a badass phone, and I like the what do you call it, the One UI design.
Oh yeah. So I'm beta testing.
Did a good job.
I jumped on the beta testing to test One UI 6.0. So far so good. It's looking good. I just also remember a notable thing. One of the reviewers, performance-wise, the problem is it didn't matter if it was the top Android phone in the world. It still could never compete performance-wise with the Apple Silicon. And I remember this Qualcomm Gen 2, of their was the first time they were like, we finally have an Android phone with Qualcomm Silicon that's right there.
And oddly, a lot of it has to do with the AI engine, a lot of the accelerator IP that's baked into the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, and it's tailored for Galaxy, right? For Galaxy. And I mean, it's a beast, but you're bringing up a good point, because there's a lot of folks that are making a big deal out of the CPU, right? And Intel is weird in that now they're calling what are basically SoCs, or systems on chip. They're calling that the CPU, but it's loaded with all kinds of like discrete, application specific accelerators. Well, that's what a smartphone SoC is, right? And there's people are still talking about CPU because that's what they're comfortable with, right? But when you look at the workloads, they're becoming, like what you're running on your application is using a blend of different things. I mean, your camera is a perfect example. I mean, how much of the CPU does it actually use in doing image processing? Actually, all that stuff is offloaded to the image processing unit, the AI engine, and so the architecture of computing is changing to support these new applications that are a blend of more of these, sort of fuzzy type things, or if you want to call it AI plus, traditional software and a computing model. So you have AI and call it digital signal processing computing coming together with the stuff that I think largely we used to or continue to develop in terms of software. So anyways,
I think what we have going on with this Series 8 Gen 2 for also, they've got the X70. This phone is the only one in the world that has the new thing from Qualcomm that can do the carrier aggregation stuff and do millimeter wave type performance on mid-band. It's sick. And so it won't be that way forever. But in this moment right now, if you want some of the most advanced cellular capabilities that you can get from Qualcomm, it's the only way to get it right now.
We're kind of blurring some of the lines between CPU and GPU functionality.
You're right.
And I mean, I think that's in and of itself is a big deal.
You're absolutely right.
The image processing piece of it is huge, because let's think about what people are using these handheld devices for today. It's much more for media. It's much more for, image processing capability. It's much more, I mean, let something happen on the street. The first thing you do is see like 35 people with their phones out. I'm going to capture this, man. You about to be on World Star. I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So, by the way, my wife and I are in Ireland right now. We're in Dublin, and it's been great. And we did the Guinness tour today, and we were up in the Gravity Bar, and that was awesome. And then we're heading to the UK tomorrow.
You going to get some scotch?
Oh yeah.
Single malt.
Yeah. And then I'll be back just in time to have a couple days and then fly to Austin and go hang out with you, Bill, and do our thing.
Yeah.
That's right. We will be broadcasting live.
Good.
So
from
you guys
Applied Intelligence Live Austin.
Okay, so how's that going to happen? Or who's going to film it?
you guys are going to hate me. I changed my flight. I'm just so buried at work. I'm literally not even going to fly to Austin until like midday, the 20th, the first day of the event.
That's a Wednesday.
That's all my sessions that I'm doing are on Thursday afternoon, as it turns out. And
So you mean to tell me that I'm gonna be up there by myself?
Oh,
well, tell what time are your sessions at? You know,
I don't know. I've got it's on LinkedIn. I think I've got like 3 or 4 sessions. 2 of them are on the headline stage.
okay. All right.
I know I'm doing a conversation talking about digital twins versus cognitive digital twins. That ought to be a good one.
That's a good one. Looking forward to seeing what kind of stuff you totally make up on the fly to describe that one.
Hey, there's 2 sides of the fence, right? I mean, these are instances, and you know me, I'm going to call out bullshit where bullshit is. I struggle. So it's myself and another gentleman. So I'm on the digital twin side.
Yeah, that's
applicability,
awesome.
Use cases, where it can solve problems, and how we should be thinking about it. He wrote a book called Cognitive Digital Twins. And I'm he and I, we had a conversation about it. And my thing is, when you start talking about cognitive anything, it's like, oh, isn't that just an extension of what it is in the first place? It's
could be
no different. But let's have that conversation. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Dr. Ahmed El is the author.
Oh, I know that guy.
You know him?
Yeah. I've never met him, but I know him on LinkedIn.
Yes. Yes.
We've known each other for years on LinkedIn in the metaverse.
It's one of the things. So in terms, I talk about what I know, and we can converse about things that are subjective.
Yes.
Those types of things. So that session ought to be a good one. Then I'm on the headliner stage again with my good friends at Autonomy Institute, talking about real stuff. Again, where are we deploying this stuff? And we're not pontificating about electrification and fleet charging and all of these other things. This stuff is really happening in Texas. SH-130 is a real thing. The democratization of the built environment is a real thing, and we are doing it. Mm-hmm. So, Jeff DeCo and myself, hopefully we'll have a couple other people, but if not, we are going to talk about not what's planned, not what's possible, but what is. And so I'm kind of excited about those types of things.
That's awesome. I've never met
that. I turn around and go to Move America. And right after that, I turn around and go to Smart City Expo in New York.
Oh my gosh.
Jeff DeCo, I've been on calls with him, but I've never met him in person before.
Oh, you've never met Jeff?
Not in person, no. We've been on calls together in the past, but yeah, I've never met him.
Awesome guy.
Isn't that weird? It's such a small world. Oh my God.
Yeah. Go figure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're right. That's that group he's with, and some of the edge computing friends of ours who are in Austin. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm a technology advisor for him.
Get Ryan up there. Get Ryan up on the stage if he's there.
I'm going to ask Ryan to create my second presentation that I haven't started creating yet.
Now
I've written my.
So you know what? We've got to have a session on this whole fleet electrification thing at some point, because I think that is a huge deal. And Rob, the same way that we talked about, the infrastructure bill and how it's built out. If you look at the infrastructure bill, there's so much of it that kind of breaks out into these multiple verticals, and it's saying, we need to fix the infrastructure for the utilities. We need to fix the infrastructure, in the built environment. We need to fix the infrastructure. Okay, so we talk about the underserved communities, whether that be, those that are, right in the suburban areas. And ag areas and rural areas and all of these other things. And yet we still come back to the inner city, right?
Yeah.
We still come back to the urban jungle. And that's where everything is done. So all we do is just, we're going to do this, but we don't talk about how we are going to operationally support all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
On the electrification side, look at the whole concept around charging. And, look at that. Do we really think you can provide the investment to all of this, but how are you operationally supported?
Yeah. That's a really good question.
Supportability.
Yeah.
Some people
nobody really wants
they
to
race ahead to build the thing and they're all excited and then they kind of move on.
Yeah.
And they don't worry about the supporting it. And it's a thing. You're
gonna throw the infrastructure out there, and then how do you support it? And then on top of that is, what's the supply chain look like for all of that?
That just reminds me of all the digital transformation projects I used to run and sell to my clients. It's like everybody. Even the SIs like to do a lot of the upfront big money transformation stuff, like the implementation, right? That drives a lot of at least the capability change or builds new capabilities. But then when it comes to support, either the client actually wants to whittle down the funding for that part because they think that all the stuff just runs on autopilot or, everyone just runs away unless they have a managed services group or, outsourcing group that sees that as a big opportunity. Right. So,
yeah. those are the things. And this is what I like about, the opportunity to actually, engage with organizations, that are doing things. They're not just collecting a bunch of logos and getting people around the table to discuss the problems. Everybody knows what the problems are.
Yeah.
We know what the problems are. What are we going to do is the question. Yeah. And then when you say we're going to do X, Y, and Z, okay, who's going to get paid? How does the money flow? What is the operational support model?
Yeah.
What is the business model around all of that? The notion of neutral host platforms is tremendous. I love it.
Yeah.
How does the money work?
Yeah, that's always the tough bit. It's like that bit that I posted on the old stuff that I did back in the late 90s with the we call the Asian conglomerate, right, to create a transport and logistics hub during the .com era. That everything looks great on paper, looks really exciting, looks killer in a pitch deck, but making all that stuff happen at that level is friggin' hard as hell, right? So, but it was like funny to look, these diagrams I created are like, almost 25 years old, and to see my sarcasm, it's like, it's as easy as that. I was like, well, not really.
It's as easy as that. On paper.
Yeah.
On paper. You saw those magical diagrams, and we got to turn that into reality.
I got to pat my 20-something self on the back for doing that. But I remember, one of the biggest challenges I had to face was convincing some of these guys who were the key stakeholders who were sold a bunch of Kool-Aid that this stuff what you guys are talking about is actually really hard to do. And so who's going to do this stuff, right? Outlining what needs to happen in order for this model, right? The business model, right? To work. And nobody was really looking at that. They were so focused on the platform, you know?
Right.
Yeah, 25 years ago, figured that shit out. And you know what? We still haven't figured that shit out because we still see actually diagrams that aren't even as good as the shit that I came up with 25 years ago.
Well, what's old is
people
new.
process technologies. No. It's not that easy. Stop, knock that slide off. Don't show it anymore. Get real. You know?
But it still is, foundationally, it still is people, process, and tech. It really is that. But then underneath all of that, there's a list and a framework of things that have to be done in order for that to be realized.
Right.
And the people side of it is the other end of it, right? Because we talk about these things in silos, right? You know, well, there's the tech piece of it, there's the infrastructure piece of it, there's the operational piece of it, there's the people piece of it, all of these other things. And there are ingredients to deliver the final meal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you start looking at the people who comes to the table, the big boys come to the table. Yeah. We have these other side conversations about diversity and inclusion and equity. But when those big players come to the table, there's no diversion, there's no inclusivity, there's none of that. True. Right? So we're still not solving that problem. And I mean, so now I'm seeing other organizations that are popping up that are looking like, hey, wait a minute. I mean, I go in, I could talk about just about anything on, utilities, smart cities, smart building. I mean, you name it. It doesn't matter. Because it's what problem are we trying to solve? Yeah. And when I go to have these conversations, again, there really aren't that many people that look like me.
Yeah. You know what?
There aren't that many people that look like you either.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Maybe
unless they're over there building the chips.
Depends on what you're talking about. There are technically a lot of people that look like me.
No, doing that work.
Oh yeah,
doing that work.
Yeah.
In your particular location.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, dude, your point about what is the problem that you're trying to solve takes on an entirely different dimension now, because the thing is you have to keep asking that question, those types of contexts, especially when the big guys start to come in, because a lot of these big transformation programs lose focus. And a lot of the stakeholder leadership also, they're subject to a lot of different interests. And one of the biggest challenges that organizations have that basically outsource a lot of their digital transformation, or a good portion of it, bringing consultants in, et cetera, is if you go multi-vendor, dealing with toxicity, the potential of things getting toxic. There's going to be a lot of people out there that know exactly what the friggin' hell I'm talking about. That is one of the biggest challenges. And, that's a big people element. But one of the things that a lot of folks don't spend a lot of time on is what you're talking about, the business model. So when you're transforming, what are the business model adjustments that have to happen? But also, what kind of governance has to happen? Changes to that governance model, because now things are changing. So you're going to have like the steady state stuff, the support stuff, right? How do we operate this stuff? Then that's one governance model. And then there's the change governance model on top, right? So we have the program to drive change in our business, in our technology stack, et cetera, et cetera. How do we govern all these new elements that are coming into play? And people suck at doing that. In fact, there's little attention put into that in terms of dollars. I only say that because I've only been there and done that, seen it. And that is why a lot of these digital transformation projects fail. It rarely is the technology, rarely is process. People, yeah, sure. If you have a bunch of people that are, just infighting and stuff like that, yeah, that sucks. Change management, which nobody wants to pay for. So, Yeah, it's all a lot of it is the squishy stuff. So focusing on what is the problem we're trying to solve, not how are you going to make money off of, this journey of solving the problem, because that's not solving the problem. That's serving your own interest. And those are the big challenges.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is, it really is. And it sounds simple, right? What problem are we trying to solve? And to boil that down to, we're trying to solve this problem, not we're trying to solve this problem and this problem and this problem and this problem. No, what problem are you ultimately trying to solve?
Yeah.
The problem I'm trying to solve is I want the chorizo to be chopped up so finely that every bite of queso dip that has it in it, I get lots of little bites of the spicy sausage in every bite. That's
the only way to do that is to make your own chorizo.
Yeah.
That's what you need. You got to go buy some prime rib and grind it up and season it properly. And then you roll it up into the little plastic and you tighten it and you refrigerate it for a while. And then you come back and you use it. That's what I do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what I do is I just get the Kroger brand hot, spicy Italian sausage and I use that. But then I have it when I'm browning it in the skillet, I'm like chopping it up until it's tiny little fine pieces.
But how do you get the chorizo flavoring? You got to use the chilies and everything in there. Did we just go off the track? I mean, sorry about that. Rob did that.
Some guys were just talking about solving a problem unrelated to tech. The technology I used was a strange looking spatula where I can go and chop it up finally. That was the technology part. There was no digital transformation.
No.
So all you analysts out there telling people they're going to be left behind if they don't do digital transformation, nope, you're good to go with doing your food truck.
Yeah. Solve the problems, right?
Solve the problem.
And it's all unique to every engagement, every program, every project. There's no, single one slider to solve any of it. And that's why, good consultants should get paid.
But
if you're an IoT and you're giving this shit away for free, you're stupid. Don't do that. If you actually have game, sell the value of that game, because you know what? It's dirty as hell. It's tough work, and don't give stuff out for free. I just don't understand that. You know what I'm saying?
If you want to see some of our one sliders or even full decks, just hire Accenture to have them come out, and surely when they do a presentation, it'll be one of our decks that they're using that they've now claimed for themselves.
What are you talking about? For Red Bison? Who?
No, I'm just talking about us as individuals over the years.
Yeah.
How many times have you been at a customer and Accenture or some big firm like that's doing a presentation and you see your slides in their deck?
Tons.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's called that's pre-Chat GPT, right? Where people are using templates and IP, Exactly. And some of it, I mean, come on, man, some of that stuff was really good. I mean, when I started my consulting career, man, people had to put thought into things. They're not copying and pasting as much as they do now, but some of the IP that we were developing is just freaking awesome stuff, and it's still relevant today. We're still talking about that stuff.
Those consulting firms that make the most money, they just have a simple premise. They do the as is and the to be. Yeah. And then the delta and the delta is how to get you to the to be. And then they show up with pre-created decks that somehow work for every customer to take you on this journey of the whole reorganization, that kind of thing. You know what I'm talking about? Like when you come in to do a $60 million transformation project for a customer.
I've never had one of those. I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to, but I will tell you this. that to be honest about it, I'm not going to bash some of these others, but when they do a smart city strategy or a connected community strategy, or give it a name, whatever strategy that they're doing for whatever municipality that they're working with, I've seen some of those reports. And then I've seen the ones that Smart Connections creates. They're miles apart.
Oh,
Miles apart. And that is because we are hands-on. We are hands-on. I'm not just going to tell you, I think this will work, or I'm not just going to give you case studies from another city or another city that I was never engaged with.
Right.
Or,
right.
You should do this, you should do these things. A 40-page report full of images and diagrams that have nothing to do with implementation.
I think what you should do is you should create decks, a fictitious thing about how you started with existing Detroit 8 Mile, and then you created new Detroit from RoboCop, and that's all hands on.
It's
including new police help.
Yeah,
that might get you.
Yeah, and one of the things I was telling one of my buddies who reacted to that post that I did, I told him, dude, we busted our asses, back then to basically ride the learning curve. Because when you're doing brand new stuff, there is no 9 to 5. I'm sorry, there isn't. You're ghosting your hours. You can't charge 120 hours a week. I'm sorry, that is what was happening back then.
Right.
Because you were busting your ass. Okay, you're charging 40 hours a week, right? Doing 120 hours a week because you were riding the learning curve. And I'll humbly say that because you know what? Some of the stuff that we were doing, there really isn't a precedent for it. It's like straight up, hey, figure out how to do the back office. How do we figure out how to efficiently do the back office of a .com? There's no reference for that, and so you're busting your ass. And, if you're not doing that, you're not really, it's going to take you a really long time to see the big picture, or you'll never see it at all. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's fine for a lot of people, but that's what it takes, and folks that have to go out there, they know, you can't, it's tough. It's tough. And that's all I got to say about that. It's tough.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's so tough. All right, I think it's time for me to take us out.
Yeah, you do that.
Yes. So thanks so much. We're broadcasting live from Dublin, Ireland. We brought some traditional Irish music with us, you two, and we're doing our little coffee talk. We did mostly talk about technology of music, and we are straight out of Compton, luckily, which is good. And so, and then I'm sure somewhere along the way we talked about something more meaningful. No, nothing's more meaningful than the music scene, West Coast rap. So I'm down with that. That's fine. We will see some of you from Austin, Texas next week on Wednesday when we do our Applied Live thing. A whole bunch of us are going to be there. Me and Bill and Steve Brummer is going to be there. And I think Ryan Treese will come try to crash the party. So looking forward to that. Anyway, check us out on the YouTubes. Check us out on the podcasts. You're going to love it. Or the iPods. Or if you have like a thumb drive, you might be able to get us there too. I don't know. We'll see. 8-track. We're on 8-track. We're on cassette. We're on reel to reel. We're on vinyl. We are on Sony mini disc. We are on Pioneer Laserdisc. We are on some intermediate pulse modulation PCM tapes that they came out with somewhere in between all these different generations. We're there. And if you need to find us for free, call Sean Parker over at Napster. And we are out.